Good day, first-year students! I am Stephenson Antolin, along with my co-pre-service teachers, Ma'am Gwyneth Lucas, Ma'am Aramina Meliares, Sir Alfredo Valladolid, Sir John Mark Novincido, Ma'am Rachel Tadena, Sir Moses Isaiah Lazo, Ma'am Ellen Grace Holaton, Ma'am Jamaica Pascua, Ma'am Giselle Subido, Sir John Roy Medrano, Sir Edwinson de la Cruz, and Sir Jesse Sturell, welcoming you for today's video discussion about our new unit of lessons in this subject, the contemporary word. As we about to begin, let us all pray and feel the presence of our mighty God.
Dear Lord, we thank you for the gift of life today. You allow us to have another day to praise you and see your glory. Thank you for the love and protection, especially this time of pandemic. Bless us, Father, with your wisdom as we begin our class. Help us to focus our hearts and minds on what we are about to learn. Inspire us by your Holy Spirit as we think and listen. Guide us by your eternal light as we discover more about the world around us. Lord, we thank you and let your will be done in our lives. We ask all this in the mighty name of Jesus. Amen.
Class, how's your day? I hope you're doing good today. Don't forget to always smile. And here is our classroom management reminders. First, attendance. 2 screenshot of pre-recorded video lecture. 1 at the beginning and also 1 at the end of the video, to be uploaded at the Google Form link provided with there. Take note that this is valid until 11:59 p.m. only. Second, comment down below your answer if being asked by our pre-service teachers. Third, there are mystery letters that will appear at the latter part of the video for us to simple monitor your attendance. Fourth, don't forget to take down notes those important informations. And lastly, sit, relax, and enjoy our discussion.
Learning objectives. At the end of the lesson, you will be able to first, discuss the concepts of the global population and mobility. Second, to create a concept map about concepts of the global population and mobility. Third, make a poster slogan about global population and mobility.
And here is Ma'am Aramina Meliares to start our discussion.
Hello class! Before we start our formal discussion for today, here's a short video for you to have a short idea regarding on our topic. Please bring your pen and notebook with you to take note. And after watching, I will ask some questions based on the video you've watched. So, listen and watch carefully. Now, after watching the video presented, I hope you've understood. As I said earlier, I am asking some questions based on the short video. So, here's my question. Have you ever heard the word population? What comes to your mind when you heard population growth? What do you think was the major reason on the first population growth? All of your answers are correct. In this moment, let us welcome Sir Alfredo to present what is our lesson for today.
Thank you, Ma'am Aramina. Before we officially start our discussion for today, let me first ask on what are your thoughts on the video that you have watched for today? Or what do you think about our topic? Let us know in the comment section below. So our topic for today is all about global population and mobility. If you guessed this right, big thumbs up. There are 5 lessons to discuss our topic. In lesson 21, there is global cities. Lesson 22, global demography. Lesson 23, global migration. Lesson 24, global migration, overseas Filipino employment. And lastly, lesson 25, global health. To officially start our discussion for today, here are Sir JM and Ma'am Rochelle.
Thank you so much, Sir Alfredo. And once again, hello dear students. Hi, I am Sir JM and one of your resources speakers for today. As we begin our lesson, we would like you to please participate by listening carefully, taking down notes, and making sure that you are in a comfortable place as we begin the discussion. But first, I have a question for all of you. And you can participate by thinking your answer or simply commenting it in the comment box below. Have you heard the word global cities before? Or maybe have encountered it? If yes, we will be refreshed and learn new things about it. But if not, don't worry. That is all right. For we will surely help you to understand it efficient just only for you. So are you ready? Looks like you are all ready now. So let's get started. When we say global cities, it is defined as the central sites for advanced services and facilities of telecommunications which are necessary for the execution and the management of global economic activities. In those sites, corporate headquarters tend to center, particularly companies that are operative in more than one country, according to SACEN 2005. Therefore, it is the main physical and geographic playground of the globalizing forces. And some of the examples of this, what we call global cities, are New York, London, Tokyo, Paris, and Singapore. Well, class, globalization is a great force for development and growth in a city or country. So, how about globalization as a spatial phenomenon? Globalization happens in physical spaces. We all know that. Like in foreign investment, economic opportunities, and human capital that is moving to cities. Globalization is spatial as it is based on places. And here are some of the examples of globalization as a spatial phenomenon. For example, when we say Paris, when we heard about the word Paris, the first thing that will come into our mind is that it is the home of the Eiffel Tower. While when we say New York, it is the home of the stock market. So class, that is globalization as a spatial phenomenon. Here are also some of the general characteristics of global cities for them to identify. For example, first example is about international. When we say about its first name, the word familiarity. Like for example, when we say the word Paris, it comes to our mind London, an active influence also in participation in international events and world affairs such like UN headquarters in New York City, and a fairly large population or a major international airport. For example, London Heathrow Airport, just like that. As an example of populated places. Also, this serves as an established hub for several international airlines. Another thing is the presence of an advanced transportation system that includes several freeways and or a large mass transit network offering multiple models of transportation. Another thing to consider when we say the general characteristics of global cities is that the presence of international financial institutions like law firms and stock exchange. For example, just like what we have said earlier in this video, the New York Stock Exchange. Another thing to consider in characteristics of global cities is the presence of advanced communications infrastructure on which modern transnational corporations rely. Ibig sabihin, malawak ang sakop nila for signaling system, mabilis ang signal nila, ang internet connections nila. Another thing is the presence of world-renowned cultural institutions such like museums, universities, malalaking schools, sikat na schools, ganyan. For example, Harvard, UCLA, ano pa, like that. Another thing is the presence of several world powerful and influential media outlets with an international reach. For example, the New York Times, Agence France Presse. These are just some of the most known entertainment agencies and magazine publishers na kilala sa buong mundo. Another thing is the presence of major sports facilities, home teams in a major league sports, and the ability and historical experience to host an international sporting events. For example, Olympics, World Cups, and many more. So these are the characteristics of a global cities to be considered in defining them or in identifying these global cities. Now, class, that we have defined, overviewed, and understand the general characteristics of global cities, here is Ma'am Rachel to further discuss to you on how we really categorize them and identify them, or what we call the global cities. So please lend her ear to her, and Ma'am Rachel, please take it away.
Thank you, Sir GM. So class, I hope that you are still participating by listening and taking notes. Now let us continue. I have also a question for all of you, and you can participate by thinking your answer. With all the given example and definition of global cities, how can we identify them? The identification of global cities, ayon kay Saxon 1996, he identified 3 global cities. Ito ay ang New York, London, at Tokyo. But defining and categorizing world cities was made in 1999 by the Globalization and World Cities Study Group and Network, or GEWC. GEWC ranks cities based on provision of advanced producer services such as accountancy, advertising, finance, and LOVA International Corporation. There are also cities that put into some identity through such category, at ito ang mga halimbawa. Una ay ang well-rounded global cities. When it comes to very large contribution, particularly in world economy, here are the cities such as London and New York. On the other hand, smaller contribution and cultural bias, here are the cities such as Los Angeles, Paris, and San Francisco. At sa incipients global city kabilang ang Amsterdam, Boston, Chicago, Madrid, Mila, Moscow, at Toronto. Ang pangalawa ay tungkol sa global niche cities specialized in global contribution. When it comes to niche cities of economic, we have Hong Kong, Singapore, and Tokyo. While in political and social, we have Brazil, Geneva, Istanbul, and Washington. Ang pangatlong kategorya is world cities. First, we have in cultural the cities of Berlin, Copenhagen, Melbourne, Munich, Oslo, Rome, and Stockholm. Next is political, and we have Bangkok, Beijing, Vienna, at ang panghuli ay ang social, meron tayong Manila, Nairobi, at Ottawa. At ang pang-apat na kategorya ay ang tungkol sa worldwide leading cities. In primarily economic global contribution, the cities like Frankfurt, Miami, Munich, Osaka, Singapore, Sydney, at Zurich. While in the primarily non-economic global contribution, we have Abidjan, Addis Ababa, Atlanta, Vaslui, Barcelona, Cairo, Denver, Harare, Lyon, Manila, Mexico, Mumbai, New Delhi, at Shanghai. Ang sumunod ay ang Global City Index. This consists of indicators and parameters used to determine and measure the categories of global cities and to what extent they function as global cities. Global Cities Index use criteria across 5 dimensions. Una ay ang business activity, na kung saan nakapaloob ang presence of headquarters, services firm, number of international conference, at value of goods through port and airport. Pangalawa ay ang human capital, na kung saan nakapaloob din dito ang size of foreign-born population, quality of universities, number of international school at international student population. Pangatlo ay ang informational exchange. Nakapaloob dito ang accessibility of major TV news, number of international news and bureaus. Ang pang-apat ay ang cultural experience. Nakapaloob dito ang number of sporting, museum, at performance art venues. At ang panglima ay ang political engagement. Nakapaloob dito ang number of embassies, consulate, at international organization. Global Power City Index. It evaluates and ranks the major cities of the world according to the magnetism or the comprehensive power to attract people, capital, and enterprise from around the world. Noong 2011, a report called the Global Power City Index considered several function areas, which is economy, refer to the market attractiveness, economic vitality, business environment, regulation, and risk. Research and development refer to research background, readiness for accepting and supporting researches, and research achievement. Cultural interaction refer to trend-setting potential accommodation, environment, dining, and shopping, and volume of interaction. Livability refer to working environment, cost of living, security and safety, and life support function. Environment refer to ecology, pollution, and natural environment. Accessibility refer to international transport infrastructure and inner city transportation infrastructure. So looks like the lesson we have is quite broad, but in order for you to make note of it, here are the top 10 global cities na nakabase sa report ng GCPI noong 2016. Kabilang rito ang London, New York City, Tokyo, Paris, Singapore, Seoul, Amsterdam, Berlin, Hong Kong, at Sydney. The given example above are actually the good side of being part of a global city. But did you know that even these global cities have the other side? Come on, and let's find out. The other side of global cities. Global cities, despite of degree and high-notch international ranking, are not perfect cities at all. There are still cities that consider as global cities, yet they have insufficient public transportation and absent of regulation on automobile industries and still polluted. Lagi nating tatandaan, class, that one vital aspect of globalization is the formation of global cities. These cities serve as medium to facilitate processes and flows while perpetuating the phenomenon of globalization. The other side of this global are not hidden and known worldwide. The challenge is how to address this other side while global cities are functioning. I hope that you all understand our lesson. Global cities. Now to discuss our lesson 22, here is Sir Moses.
Good day everyone. So this day we will be learning about the global demography. First, let me ask some questions. Did you know how many people living in the world? How about the current population of the Philippines? Or the top 3 biggest countries when it comes to population? And most importantly, what are the implications of overpopulation? Demography is the scientific study of determinants and the consequences of a human population trends. Sa panahon ng 21st century, umabot sa 6 na bilyon ang buong populasyon at patuloy din ang paglobo nito. So, demography represent the study of statistics such as birth, deaths, or incident of the disease to which illustrate the changing structure of a human population, and this pose an effect on globalization as a whole. Our current world population is about 7.9 billion. China having 1.4 billion, and it's considered as the biggest country in the world when it comes to its population. Second was India, has a 1.4 billion population, while the United States rank as the third biggest country when it comes to population and having about 334 million people. Philippines has 111 million, and we are on the 13th rank according to worldometer.com. In general, demography pertains to the composition of a particular human population. As you can see in the figure 1, makikita natin ang malawakang pagbabago sa dami ng tao sa nakalipas na 200 taon. This is the demographic transition, brought by momentous changes reshaping the economic and demographic life cycle of individuals and restructuring population. Clearly, before the transition, the growth of the world population is close to stationary, kung saan ang buhay ay maikli pa lamang. Maraming nanganganak, mabagal ang growth, and population are young. Now, let's move on to the Malthusian theory. Malthusianism is the idea that population growth is the potential exponential while the growth of food and resources is linear. It derives the political and economic thought Reverend Thomas Malthus in his 1798 political writing and essay on the principle of the population. The main features of the Malthusian theory are first, that population was growing at geometrical progression, while food and production was growing at arithmetical progression. Second, that there is a tendency for living things to grow beyond the food available to them. Third, unless population increases much with means of subsistence, negative and positive checks will come into force. The fourth and the last one, that population is essentially limited by the means of subsistence. He argued that the difference between geometric and arithmetic growth created a tension between the growth of population and that of the means of subsistence. This gap persists indefinitely. Also, he mentioned that population has held on equilibrium with the slowly growing economy. Dahil sa pagbilis ng paglobo ng populasyon, magkakaroon ng kahirapan. Maaaring tataas ang mortality rate dahil sa tagutom, pagkakaroon ng gyera o mga sakit. On the contrary, what Malthus predicted that mortality would curve as the population will explode from near 1 billion in 1800s and reach 6 billion at the end of 20th century. Malthus didn't recognize the occurrence of Industrial Revolution that became a factor in the exponential growth in the means of subsistence. As being educated individuals and given all of those data presented to you, I hope this lesson will make you wealthy in terms of decision in the near future. Let's try to look at the bigger picture and realize that what we do, no matter how small as having a large family, ironically sounds, actually affect the world in general. After all, we are all interconnected in this small world. And now, here is Ma'am Ellen to continue our lesson.
Thank you, Sir Moses. For the continuation of our lesson, here is the demographic transition. This demographic transition refers to the transition from high birth and death rates to low birth and death rates as a country develops from a pre-industrial to an industrialized economic system. In short, this demographic transition is the phenomenon or theory based on the historical shift from high birth rates and high death rates in societies with minimal technology, education, and economic development to low birth rates and low death rates in societies with advanced technology. Using the demographic transition model, the demographers can better understand a country's current population growth based on its placement within one of four stages and then pass on that data to be used for addressing economic and social policies within the country and across nation. As shown on the PowerPoint presentation, the graph represents the four stages of demographic transition model. The stage 1, pre-industrial society, the stage 2, early industrial society, the stage 3, late industrial society, and the stage 4, which is post-industrial society. In stage 1, there are high and unstable birth and death rates, population growth rates are slow, importance of children and have low expectancy. There are reasons why there are changes in birth rate like our children are needed for farming, they die at an early age due to illness and no family planning, and conception or giving birth is encouraged by religion and society. And reasons why there are changes in death rate because of diseases, famine, and poor medical knowledge. In stage 2, early industrial society, there are high birth rates, falling death rates, and high population growth. The reason why there are changes in birth rate because children are needed for farming, they die at an early age due to illness, just like in the stage 1. Next is the stage 3, late industrial society. In here, there are low death rates, falling birth rate, and high population growth. The improvements in medical care and diet, fewer children needed at work are the factors why are there changes in death rate. The improvements in medical use, water, supply, and sanitation, and fewer children die are the reasons why there are changes in death rate. Lastly is the stage 4, post-industrial society. In this stage, there are low birth and death rate and low population growth because of having family planning, good health, later marriage, improving status of women, reliable food supply, and people are living much longer. This demographic transition theory is not free from any criticism at all, as the same does not apply to all countries because it is only based in the Western societies like Europe, America, and Japan. The next one is the fertility transition theory. This theory states that fertility is declining in the less developed countries. It seems to be related directly to the extent to which modern contraceptives are employed. In modern times, information about contraceptives is widespread due to mass media. Strip off the major points, the fertility transition theory asserts that while economic development can create a climate conducive to reduction in fertility, it is change in cultural attitude about large families and a willingness to use contraception that matters aside from the presence and availability of contraception itself. Still, opposition to birth control and family planning are aplenty. The manufacture, distribution, and education about use of contraceptive remain expensive and religion can block control programs. Others are of societal concerns like low status of women, lack of political and economic rights, and lack of access to education. That will be the end of the lesson 22. I hope that will help you to understand the global demography. And now, here is Ma'am Giselle to start a new lesson.
Thank you, Ma'am Ellen. Once again, I am Giselle Subido, your pre-service teacher for today. And now let's begin with our new topic. But first, you have to lend your ears and please do take down notes. Okay, so I will present to you pictures on our screen. Can you see the pictures? Okay, very good. Can you give an insight about the pictures? Okay, very good. So what do you think why people tend to move to other places? Excellent. So the pictures that you see are all about people who tend to move to other places in order for them to find work and residence. And our topic for today is about global migration and its basic concept. Okay, so what is global migration? Global migration is a global phenomenon that countries all over the world are experiencing. In fact, global migration has been recognized as playing an important role in achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. So, are you familiar with Sustainable Development Goals? Okay, so we will tackle that later on. So, dumako naman tayo sa migration. Ano nga ba ang migration? Migration is the crossing boundary of a political or administrative unit for a certain minimum period of time. It includes the movement of refugees, displaced persons, uprooted people, as well as economic migrants. On the other hand, migration encompasses large variety of movements and situations involving people. It is embroiled with geopolitics, trade, cultural exchange, and provide opportunities for several countries, business, communities, and cultures to benefit in grand manner. Sinasabi dito, ito ay proseso ng pag-alis o paglipat sa ibang lugar. Ang migration ay may maganda ding dulot sa ating ekonomiya sapagkat dito nagkakaroon ng kalakalan, pananaliksik, business at pagkilala sa iba't ibang kultura na kung saan lahat ay makikinabang. So there are two types of migration. First, the internal migration and international migration. Internal migration refers to a change of residence within national boundaries such as between states, provinces, cities, or municipalities. So sa internal migration, you have to remember the keyword within. Ito ay ang paglipat ng isang tao o pamilya mula sa bayan, lalawigan o rehiyon patungo lamang sa ibang bahagi ng bansa upang makahanap ng mas magandang oportunidad. The next one is international migration. Refers to a change or residence over national boundaries. An international migrant is someone who moves to a different country. Ito naman yung mga tao na lalabas sa ating bansa upang pumunta sa ibang lugar. Lagi niyong tatandaan ang keyword na over national boundaries. Ito ay ang pagpunta ng isang tao o pamilya sa ibang bansa upang doon na manirahan. Can migration be considered the hope of Filipino people? What is your insight about this? Excellent! So this time, let's tackle about the different causes of migration in terms of economic, political, and social. The first one is economic. In terms of economic, people tend to migrate in order for them to search for better economic condition where they can live comfortably. Alam naman natin na ang tao ay likas na maghahanap ng mapagkakakitaan o trabaho upang sila ay mabuhay. At isa ito sa maaaring epekto ng migration sa pang-araw-araw na pamumuhay ng tao kung kaya't pipiliin nilang umalis sa ating lugar o mangibang bansa upang sila ay makahanap ng mas magandang oportunidad. In addition is to escape overpopulation and its effect. Ito ay maaaring hindi pagkakaroon ng ligtas na tirahan at hindi ligtas na paligid. hindi sapat na pagkain at tubig. Next one is to escape poor climate change, such as drought or natural disasters such as floods, landslides, and earthquakes. Kapag mapanganib na ang lugar na kinabibilangan ng tao, ito ay aalis sa lugar na kung saan sa tingin nila ay mas ligtas silang maninirahan at hindi na maaabot ng anumang panganib. In terms of political condition, first, punishment for crimes committed. Ito naman ay upang matakasan ang mga kaso o di kaya ay kasalanan na nagawa. Maaari ding natatakot harapin sa ginawang aksyon kaya mas pinili nilang umalis o lumayo. Another one is result of enslavement. Maaring ang tao ay umaalis sa lugar na kanilang kinabibilangan sa kadahilanan na sila ay alila lamang. Next one is to escape war, invasion, and military takeover. Okay, so madalas ito na nangyayari sa ibang bansa kung kaya't mas gugustuhin nilang umalis para sa kanilang kaligtasan at hindi na madamay pa sa pagitan ng mga terorista. In terms of social condition, first is to spread religion, katulad ng mga pari, pastor o kaya may mga misyon sa buhay na magpalaganap ng salita ng Diyos. Another thing is to reunite families and friends, to have reunions, parties, or family bonding. And the last one is to find personal freedom and lifestyle. Ito naman ay kagustuhan ng tao na magkaroon ng relaxation or leisure time. To sum it up, that since earliest time, humanity has been on the move. Some people move in search for labor or economic opportunities. Another thing is to join families or study. However, that not all migration happens in positive circumstances. Others move to escape conflict, persecution, terrorism, or human rights violation, such as what mentioned earlier that every individual has their own reason to escape from a certain place, okay? So, mayroong mga salik ang migrasyon na tumutulak at humihila. Ang mga ito ay makikita sa aspekto ng ekonomiya, lipunan at kapaligiran. Maraming mabuti at di mabuting epekto ang migrasyon sa lipunan, politika at kabuhayan ng isang bansa. Naapektuhan din nito ang ugnayang panlabas ng Pilipinas. Maraming hamon ang kinakaharap ng migranteng Pilipinong nagtatrabaho sa ibang bansa. Kabilang na dito ang maprotektahan ang kanilang karapatang pantao, maging ligtas sa anumang gulo at mabigyan ng sapat na tulong ang mga nasasakdan. So similarly, others move in response to adverse effect of climate change, natural disaster, and other environmental factors. And according to United Nations 2017 states that there are approximately 68 million forcibly displaced persons, including 25 million refugees, 3 million asylum seekers, and 40 million internally displaced persons. Let's move to migration and sustainable development goals. So, ito na yung tanong ko kanina. What is sustainable development goals? Do you have an insight about the SDG or its relation to migration? Sustainable development goals are to be achieved by all member states by year 2030. They are universal call to action to end poverty, protect the planet, and ensure all people enjoy peace and prosperity. So, there are 17 goals of SDG, but we will only tackle those relation to migration. And these are follows. Goal 3, good health and well-being. Ensure the healthy lives and promote well-being for all ages. So, kinakailangan ito lalo na't nagkakaroon ng pandemya at ang kalusugan ng mamamayan ay isa sa mga nanganganib na dapat napagtutuunan ng pansin. Goal 4, quality education. Ensure inclusive, equitable quality education that promotes lifelong learning. Ang edukasyon din ay isa sa mahalagang matutukan sapagkat isa ito sa makapagbibigay ng malaking oportunidad sa tao upang makahanap ng maayos na trabaho. Goal 5, gender equality. Achieve gender equality and empower all women. Siyempre, ang mga kababaihan din ay dapat makilala sa iba't ibang larangan na sila ay may iba't ibang kakayahan na hindi lamang sa kalalakihan nakikita. Okay? Another thing is Goal 8, Decent Work and Economic Growth. Promote economic growth, full and productive employment. Okay? So, pag nagkaroon ng maayos na trabaho, magiging maganda din ang buhay ng isang tao. At hindi na ito lilipat pa sa ibang lugar upang mas makahanap ng magandang oportunidad. Mahalaga na may sakatuparan ito sapagkat malaki itong tulong sa individual. Bakit mahalaga na malaman natin ang kahalagahan ng Sustainable Development Goals sa migration? Okay, ito ay upang matutukan at mabigyan ng solusyon ang dumadaming migrante sa iba't ibang lugar. Katulad nga ng sabi ko kanina, maraming mabuti at di mabuting dulot ito. And in line with this, Sustainable Development Goals refers to the development that meets the needs of present without compromising the ability of future generation to meet their own needs. Ang Sustainable Development Goal ay tumutukoy sa paraan ng patuloy na pag-unlad ng bansa. Okay, did you understand our topic? Or do you have any other question? If none, please listen to our next presenter. Lend your ears to Teacher Jamaica as she will continue our lesson.
Thank you, Ma'am Giselle. Hi, class. Good day. Now, I will discuss to you the continuation of Lesson 23, which is Global Migration Basic Concepts. Are you ready? So let's get started. The next Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, related to migration is Goal 11, or the Sustainable Cities and Communities. This goal addresses urban development. It makes cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. Next is Goal 13, or the Climate Action. Because the climate crisis continues na nararamdaman natin dito man sa ating bansa o sa ibang bansa, the goal of SDG 13 is to take urgent action to combat climate change and its impact. Next is Goal 16, Peace, Justice, and in Strong Institutions. It promotes peaceful and inclusive societies for sustainable development, provide access to justice for all, and build effective, accountable, and inclusive institutions at all levels. Ito ay pagsulong ng mapayapa at napapabilang ng mga lipunan para sa pag-unlad. We also have Goal 17, Partnerships for the Goals. This is to strengthen the means of implementation and revitalize the global partnerships for sustainable development. Ito ay pagkakaisa at pagtutulungan upang makamit ang mga layunin ng bawat bansa. Lastly, Goal 10, Reduce Inequalities. Reduce inequality within and among countries. Ang layunin nito ay bawasan ang hindi pagkakapantay-pantay at pagkakapareho sa pagitan ng mga bansa. I hope you understand the Sustainable Development Goals we just discussed. But if you want to learn the remaining goals, you can search for it on Google. Now, let's move on to migrants. But before we discuss the migrants, let me ask all of you. When you hear the word migrants, what comes first into your mind? You can answer it on your own. Okay, migrants. According to the International Organization for Migration, or IOM, a migrant is any person who is moving or has moved across an international border or within a state away from his or her habitual place of residence, regardless of, number 1, the person's legal status, number 2, whether the movement is voluntary or involuntary, number 3, what the causes for the movement are, or number 4, what the length of the stay is. From the definition, two categories of migrants can be identified. Number 1, labor or economic migrants and family reunification. Labor migrant is a person who leaves their country of origin purely for employment. Best example of this is our Overseas Filipino Worker or OFW. While family reunification is the process of bringing together family members, particularly children, spouses, and elderly dependents. These are the people who choose to live and become citizens abroad. Number 2 categories of migrant is forced migrant, asylum seekers, and refugees. Forced migrants are those who are compelled to migrate due to adverse circumstances beyond their control. For example, war and persecution. Asylum seekers. Asylum seekers are people who has left their country and is seeking protection from persecution and serious human rights violation in another country, but who has not yet been legally recognized as a refugee and is waiting to receive a decision on their asylum claim. Seeking asylum is a human right. Refugees. Refugees are people who has been forced to leave their country in order to escape war, persecution, and natural disaster. Now, let's discuss the drivers of migration. Drivers of migration. According to Massey et al. 1998, drivers of migration are forces which lead to inception of migration into the perpetuation of movement. Question is, why do people migrate? Bakit nga ba? Migration research has shown that people are driven by multiple factors that facilitate, enable, constrain, and trigger migration processes in complex ways. Some of the drivers of migration are as follows. Number 1, economic and demographic drivers. Economic opportunities, demographics, and poverty, food insecurity are prime influencers in the migration decision-making process and interact to greater or lesser degrees depending on the specific context to drive migration. In developing countries, lack of job opportunities, wage differentials, and aspiration propel young people away from home in search of employment and income opportunities. Dahil na nga sa kakulangan ng mga trabaho sa mga paunlad na bansa, tulad ng ating bansa, there are some people who choose to work abroad dahil, naman, mas maganda at malaking sahod ang may bibigay nito sa kanila. Number 2 drivers of migration is environmental drivers. Environmental factors, including those related to climate change and natural disasters, directly and indirectly impact the resilience and vulnerability of individuals, households, and communities, and may lead to migration. And lastly, number 3, human-made crisis. Human-made crises among the primary root causes of migration and have an important impact on population movements more generally. The lack of respect for international human rights and humanitarian law has compounded growing displacements of many as consequence of their deteriorating living conditions. And that's it. I hope you understand our topic. To discuss Lesson 24, may I call on Sir John Roy?
Thank you, Ma'am Jamaica. Good day, class. Trivia muna, class. Did you know that organized labor migration from the Philippines has been in existence for at least 400 years? Noong sinakop tayo ng mga Espanyol sa mga taong 1521 to 1898. Maraming mga Pilipino ang lulan ng Manila Galleon ships. Sa mga panahong iyon, halos lahat ng mga trabahador ng mga Espanyol ay mga Pilipino. Ang Manila Galleon ships ay ginamit sa Manila-Acapulco Galleon Trade upang makipag-trade ng goods katulad na lamang ng silk, porcelain, ivory, spices, at mga exotic foods galing sa China. Idinadaan muna ang mga ito sa Manila bago dalhin sa Acapulco sa Mexico in exchange for New World silver. Now, I will discuss the common reasons why Filipinos work abroad. But before that, I will ask you some questions. Sino sa inyo ang may mga kakilala, kamag-anak, o kapamilya na OFW o dating mga OFW? Sa inyong palagay, ano yung rason nila kung bakit sila ng ibang bansa? Thank you for your answers, class. The first common reason is poverty. Poverty is an issue for a country like Philippines. Its effects drive many Filipinos to find opportunities for employment abroad. Ordinarily, if someone could not find suitable source of employment in his or her country, then there will be no other choice but to seek greener pastures abroad. Isa sa mga matagal na kinakaharap na problema ng bansa natin ay ang kahirapan. As reported by the Philippine Statistics Authority, the poverty incidence among population has increased to 23.7% during the half of 2021 from 21.1% in the same period of 2018. This translates to 3.9 many Filipinos living in poverty. One of the effects of poverty is hunger. Because of this, many Filipinos are forced to work abroad. Kapag wala silang mahanap na trabaho rito sa ating bansa, syempre, wala na silang ibang choice kundi ang mga ibang bansa. Nagiging last option na lang minsan ang pangingibang bansa upang sa wakas ay magkaroon ng trabaho ang ilan sa atin at makaahon sa kahirapan. Umaasa na uunlad at mabibigyan nila ng mas magandang kinabukasan ang kani-kanilang mga sarili at kani-kanilang mga pamilya. Second common reasons are unemployment and low wages. Unemployment and low wages are prevalent in the Philippines. This predicament is being carried even by a college graduate in our country, more so by those who failed to finish their education. As a result, Filipino worker will be compelled to search for income opportunities abroad. Akala natin noon na pagkatapos ng kolehiyo ay nandyan na kaagad ang magandang trabaho at malaking sweldo. Kahit ang mga college graduates ay hirap din sa paghahanap ng trabaho. One of the reasons why even college graduates is having hard time in finding job is lack of experience. There are companies or employers who prefer to hire those applicants who at least have a working experience. Kaya naman hirap ang mga fresh graduates sa paghahanap ng una nilang trabaho. Another reason is skill mismatch. Hindi tugma yung pinoposes na skill ng applicant sa hinahanap na skill ng employer. Kaya ang resulta ay hindi sila tanggap. Kaya yung iba sa kanila ay pinipiling makipagsapalaran na lamang sa ibang bansa, umaasa na makahanap sila ng trabaho. In-demand jobs that normally should have fair compensation, such as nurses, engineers, accountants, and other professionals, are inadequately paid as compared with the compensation that are for these professionals abroad. Even non-skilled workers, such as housemaids and other laborers, are well compensated abroad than the professionals in the Philippines. Mas pinipili ng mga profesional kahit ang mga kasambahay na mga ibang bansa na lamang kaysa magtrabaho rito sa kadahilanang mas malaki ang sweldo kumpara rito sa ating bansa. Minsan pa ay mas malaki pa ang sweldo ng isang katulong kumpara sa isang professional dito sa ating bansa. Nangingibang bansa ang ilan sa atin dahil gusto nila ng mas malaking bayad sa serbisyo na kanilang ibinibigay. The third common reason is enhancement of professional skills. Filipinos go abroad for their professional development. This is due to the reality that having global experience gives them career edge among other Filipino professionals left working here in the Philippines. Abroad, Filipinos deal with different people from different religion, races, and cultures, and this gives them unique advantage. Plus, the kind of opportunity for professional growth abroad are aplenty as compared to the Philippines. Pinipili ng mga professional na mag-abroad upang mas palawigin pa at ang kanilang kaalaman at kanilang mga karanasan. Dagdag na rin dito ang mas maganda at mas maraming oportunidad abroad ang nag-aabang sa kanila. Kaya mas nakikinabang pa yata ang ibang bansa sa mga profesional na galing sa Pilipinas kaysa sa sarili nating bansa. The last reason is curiosity. One of the reasons why Filipinos work abroad is to have experience, to travel and experience abroad. Working abroad gives them perfect opportunity for the working Filipino to travel and experience life overseas. Filipino personal ambitions or goals since childhood can also be drawn out as a reason why did they choose to work abroad. It gives them the opportunity and the confidence to pursue and realize for their own ambition. Malaki ang factor ng intrinsic motivation na bubuo sa isipan ng isang tao o kaya ng isang bata na gustuhin pumunta sa ibang bansa nang dahil sa ambisyon at mga layunin niya sa buhay. Gusto nilang maranasan yung mga bagay na wala at hindi nila mararanasan sa ating bansa. And those are the common reasons why Filipinos work abroad. Because of poverty, unemployment, low wages, enhancement of professional skills, and curiosity. Now, I will be discussing the common risk or cost of overseas Filipino employment. Some of the common risks or costs are abuse and violence. Both male and female OFWs are at risk of the possibility of violence, abuse, trafficking, and false accusations. The tendency of foreigners to treat Filipino are lowly contribute to the set of fears of OFWs. When OFWs suffer discrimination, the lack of motivation to complete tasks occurs. The common work fears of Filipinos workers are the possibilities of abuse and violence that can lead to severe physical injuries and even death. Nearly 5,000 cases of maltreatment of overseas Filipino workers were recorded in 2020. In Asia, there were 593 maltreatment cases, while 86 incidents were reported in Europe and the Americas. The Philippine Overseas Labor Office's data also concluded the number of contract violations committed against OFWs, which totaled to 23,714, majority of which were reported in the Middle Eastern countries. Marami nang naibabalita sa atin na may mga namamaltrato na OFW. Halimbawa nito ay ang kaso ni Joanna Dimafelis na pinatay ng among Lebanese at inilagay sa freezer ang kanyang bangkay. Sa kagustuhan ng mga kababayan natin na mga ibang bansa upang mabigyan ng magandang buhay ang kanilang pamilya, magiging rason din pala ito upang masira ang kanilang buhay. And last is weakened family ties. Children who are left behind are usually not guided properly. Oftentimes, both parents are working abroad and the children would only be left under the guidance of their grandparents and relatives. Long separation creates a huge gap between the parents and the children. The effect of parents' departures on toddlers and preteens are worse. Sa kagustuhan ng ibang mga magulang na mabigyan ng magandang buhay at magandang kinabukasan ang kani-kanilang mga anak, hindi na nila namamalayan na napapariwara na pala ang kani-kanilang mga anak. Hindi nila gaanong nabibigyan ng atensyon, patnubay at gabay ang ilan sa mga kabataan na may mga magulang na OFW. Lumalayo rin ang loob ng ilang mga anak sa kanilang mga magulang. May mga ilan din na mga sanggol pa lamang ay iniiwan na ng kanilang mga magulang upang makipagsapalaran sa ibang bansa, na nagre-resulta rin sa hindi magandang relasyon. Malayo ang loob ng bata sa kaniyang mga magulang. In addition, the marital relationship between parents are put at risk. Abroad, several extramarital relationships can result due to the distance brought overseas employment. As a result, the marital bond breaks, leading to the destruction of the family. Again, leading to the detriment of the children. Minsan, nakasisira rin sa buhay mag-asawa ang pangibang bansa. May tsansa na ang isa sa mag-asawa o maaari ring pareho sila ay maghanap ng bago sa kadahilanang magkalayo sila. Nang dahil sa hindi na nila nakakasama ang isa't isa, hinahanap nila sa iba yung hindi na nila maramdaman at hindi na nila nararanasan sa kanilang mga asawa. And those are the common risk or cost of overseas Filipino employment. Here are Ma'am Gwyneth and Ma'am Aramina to present to you some of the relevant laws covering overseas Filipino workers.
Thank you, Sir John Roy. And here are some relevant law covering overseas Filipino workers. First, the Migrant Workers and Overseas Filipino Act of 1995 or the Republic Act 1842. Pinagtitibay ng RA 1842 ang mandato ng mga ahensya tulad ng Department of Foreign Affairs or DFA na pangunahing nangangasiwa sa kapakanan ng mga OFW sa iba't ibang bansa. Kabilang ng mga serbisyo na pwedeng makuha sa tanggapan ng DFA ay legal assistance na bukas para sa anumang suliranin ng mga OFW. Halimbawa na lamang ng mga suliranin ay mga pagmamaltrato o pagmamalupit ng kanilang mga amo. Second, the Omnibus Implementing Rules of Migrant Workers and Overseas Filipino Act of 1995 or Republic Act No. 8042. Itong batas naman na ito ay kaparehas ng nauna. Ang kaibahan lamang nito ay naamyandahan. Ang batas na ito ay nagkakaroon ng karagdagang pagpapabuti ng gobyerno gaya ng dapat palawakin ang mga access ng mga migrant na manggagawa sa mga libreng kasanayan o mga programa sa pagpapaunlad at pagpahuhusay sa pamamagitan ng mga libreng scholarship, pagkakaroon ng subsidies or grant ng mga kinakaukulang ahensya. Alinsunod dito sa lalong madaling panahon, ang pamahalaan ay dapat magtalaga o mag-deploy lamang ng mga bihasang manggagawang Pilipino. Third, Overseas Workers Investment Fund Act or Republic Act No. 7111. Sa itong batas na naglalayon na protektahan at itaguyod ang kapakanan ng mga Pilipinong manggagawa sa ibang bansa. Bubuo ng makabagong paraan upang magbigay ng mga insentibo at iangat ang mga antas ng pamumuhay ng mga pamilya ng ating mga manggagawang Pilipino. Patakaran din ng Estado na bawasan ang kasaling sa utang sa ibang bansa upang mas mahusay na makamit ang patuloy na pagdalago ng ekonomiya sa pamamagitan ng pagtap ng mga hindi opisyal at informal na remittance ng sasabing mga manggagawa. Fourth, the Welfare Fund for Overseas Workers Organization and Administration of the Welfare Fund of Overseas Workers or Presidential Decree Number 1694. Because of the volatile situation in many countries hosting this labor force, the government is continually under stress in efforts to provide overseas Filipino workers adequate protection, so that this Presidential Decree Number 1694 was created to provide social and welfare services to the Filipino workers, including insurance coverage, legal assistance, placement assistance, and remittance services. Dahil sa dami ng mga countries na nagdedemand ng mga workers, ginawa ang presidential decree na ito para bigyan sila ng proteksyon. Dahil isa din sa ang mga OFW na malaking tulong sa ating ekonomiya. Aramina will continue in presenting the remaining relevant law covering overseas workers abroad.
Thank you, Ma'am Gunette. Let us continue the 4 remaining relevant laws covering overseas Filipino workers abroad. Fifth, the Welfare Fund for Overseas Workers, amending certain provisions of Presidential Decree 1694 and creating the Welfare Fund for Overseas Workers, or Presidential Decree Number 1809. Presidential Decree Number 1809 was the amended law from certain provisions of Presidential Decree 1694. The sections 2, 3, and 5 are the sections with the same decree are the amended part. 6 is an act creating the Commission on Filipinos Overseas and for Other Purposes, or Batas Pambansa bilang 79. Itong batas naman ay ang pagbuo ng commission para sa mga Filipino overseas working abroad. Ito ay binubuo ng 5 miyembro na ia-appoint ng ating presidente. Isang posisyon rito ay ang Minister of Foreign Affairs. The President shall designate the chairman and the vice chairman of the commission from among its members. Next is the law creating the POEA, or Philippine Overseas Employment Administration, or Executive Order Number 797. This law is for the reorganization of the Ministry of Labor and Employment, creating the Philippine Overseas Employment Administration, and for other purposes, like the ministry shall have such offices overseas as will enable it to carry out its responsibilities effectively, subject to prior approval by the President on the establishment of each such office abroad. And lastly, the POEA Rules and Regulation governing the recruitment and employment of land-based overseas workers in February 4, 2002. These are rules and regulations governing the recruitment or pagtanggap at employment or trabaho. Some of the rules and regulations are: Number 1, to uphold the dignity and fundamental human rights of Filipino migrant workers and promote full employment and equality of employment opportunities for all. Number 2, to protect every citizen desiring to work overseas by securing the best possible terms and conditions of employment. And lastly, to allow the deployment of Filipino migrant workers only in countries where their rights are protected. Kasi sa napapanood natin sa mga TV news at nababasang relevant articles ay madalas madami tayong nababalitaan na mga naaabusong OFW. Thank you for listening, class, and I hope those reasons why Filipino people go abroad, the common risk or cause of overseas Filipino employment, and the 8 relevant laws covering overseas Filipino workers will help us to become aware. hindi lang sa mga nararanasan ng ating mga overseas Filipino workers abroad, but also malaman din natin ang mga batas at karapatan na magtatanggol at magpapangalaga sa kanila. And now, here is Sir Edwinson to discuss the lesson 25.
Thank you, Ma'am Gwyneth and Ma'am Aramina, for a very informative discussion. Before we begin our next topic, I want you to look at this picture and type on the comment section on the things you observed on them. O ano ang mga napapansin ng mga pagkakakonekta ng bawat isa na naririto. Karagdagan, ang mga pagkakakonekta nila, ito o yung mga rason kung bakit ang global health ay nagre-resulta sa iba't ibang uri ng issues leading to fragmenting and global health inequality na kinakaharap natin na nakakaapekto sa bawat bansa ngayon. And today, that is we will talk about. First of all, when you hear about global health, what comes to your mind? In addition, global health comes from the word global, meaning it refers to the universal scope of problems, not location. Ibig sabihin, buong mundong pangkalusugan, hindi lamang ito tumutukoy sa iisang suliranin ng bansa, kundi ng lahat. Pakatandaan din natin na ito ay mga issue o sakit na ating suliranin. Further, please take note that global health is a dynamic term which is still evolving with the changing world. And at present, the term global health pertains to an area for study, research, and practice that places a priority on improving health and achieving health equity for all people worldwide. Gayon na nga, ang World Health Organization ay ahensyang nagtatrabaho sa buong mundo upang itaguyod ang kalusugan, panatiling ligtas ang mundo at pagsilbihan ang mga tao sa pamamagitan din ng global health sector. Global health also refers to any health issue that concerns many countries or is affected by transnational determinants like climate change, urbanization, and malnutrition. Ang layunin ay upang matiyak na may pangkalahatang saklaw ng proteksyon sa mga isyong nabanggit. Also, global health is better understood by integrating the following key concepts as highlighted by Copeland et al. First is the collaborative or collective. It highlights the critical role of collaboration in addressing all health issues and especially global issues having all multiple determinants and a wide range of institutions involved in obtaining solutions. Sa madaling sabi, ito ay pakikipagtulungan at pagkakaisa ng bawat bansa upang masolusyonan ang mga problemang pangkalusugan. Next is transnational or cross-national. It pertains to the issues transcending national boundaries despite the effects of global health issues being experienced within countries. Transnational work is usually based on strong national public health institutions. This further requires the involvement of more than 2 countries. Ang transnational naman ay isang advokasya na naglalayon makatulong sa pagmamagitan ng pagkakaisang hakbang na lutasin ang mga isyong kinakaharap. Next is research. Research refers to the importance of developing the evidence-based policies which are multidisciplinary, focusing on the effects of transnational determinants of health. Sa tulong ng pananaliksik, nakakadiskubre tayo ng bagong kaalaman na maaaring maging solusyon sa suliranin. Makita ang kabisaan ng ginagamit sa pamamaraan ng estratehiya sa pagresolba at pagtuklas tulad na lamang ng mga gamot at iba pa. Next is action. Focuses on the importance of utilizing evidence-based information as basis to improve the quality of health and health equity in all countries. Ang pagsasagawa ng magandang plano ay mga pamamaraan na ginagawa upang maaksyonan ang mga suliranin ng bansa. Dahil kung walang aksyon na gagawin, karaniwang nagre-resulta ito sa matinding problema. Next is promoting or improving. It pertains to the importance of using full range of public health and health promotion strategies in improving health. This includes initiatives toward underlying social, economic, environmental, and political determinants of health. Ang promosyon ng kalusugan ay mga proseso ng pagbibigay daan sa mga tao na pagtaasin ang kontrol o pahusayin ang kalusugan. Hinihikayat nila ang publiko o magkaroon ng kamalayan dito upang makaiwas sa mga sakit. Lastly, ang Health for All. It traces back to the Alma Ata Declaration and places global health at the front line of multi-stakeholder approaches to health improvement. Eventually, this leads to strengthening primarily healthcare at the core of health systems. Ang Health for All ay nangungulugan na ang kalusugan ay dapat dalhin sa abot ng lahat sa isang particular na bansa. Ito ay para sa lahat. Ang pagkalinga lalo na sa mga sektor ng laylayan o mahihirap. Kaya nga may mga libreng programa ng gobyerno na isinasagawa upang matulungan ang mga tao, lalo na mga nangangailangan na walang kakayanang magpagamot. Dumako naman tayo sa globalization and health. Ano nga ba ang globalization? Globalization is regarded as a social, cultural, and economic phenomenon. It primarily involves the evolution of common understanding of ideas, languages, foods, and popular culture. In short, ang globalization ay ang pagiging magkakaugnay ng mga bansa at tao sa mundo dulot ng mga pagbabago sa teknolohiya, sa komunikasyon at transportasyon na nagdudulot ng pagbilis ng palitan ng impormasyon at produkto na nagreresulta sa pagbabago sa pamumuhay ng tao. Ang ilang halimbawa ng globalisasyon ay pagkalat ng mga multinational at transnational corporations sa iba't ibang bansa. Halimbawa, matatagpuan na ang McDo, Burger King, Toyota, Lenovo at iba pang sa iba't iba parte ng mundo. Pangalawa ay paglawak ng paggamit ng internet. Halimbawa, dahil sa Facebook, matatawagan na ang taong nasa Europe na taong nasa Asia. Pangatlo ay paglaganap ng mga imported na produkto. Halimbawa nito ay matatagpuan na ang mga Hershey's, Cadbury, Pringles at iba pa sa iba't ibang mga bansa. At ang panghuli ay pagkakaroon ng mas malayang interaksyon ng mga bansa. Halimbawa, ASEAN integration sa pagitan ng mga bansa sa nakabilang sa Association of Southeast Asian Nations. Okay, ano naman ang health? Health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. Ang ibig sabihin ng kalusugan o health, ito ay nangungulugan ng isang estado ng pagiging masigla ang isip, katawan at pakikitungo sa iba. Hindi itong simpleng kawalan lamang ng sakit, kapansanan o iba pang karamdaman. Ito ay ating kayamanan kaya dapat natin itong palagan, di po ba? And let us go to the Philippine Health Profile. For your information, did you know that in the past years, the Philippines has made significant investments and advances in health. The rapid economic growth and strong capacity have contributed to Filipinos living longer and healthier. At dahil dito, nagresulta ito sa positive developments in the healthcare of Filipinos. Ito ang mga sumusunod. Listen carefully. Number 1. Health insurance now covers 92% of population. Tulad na lamang ng insurance companies like PhilHealth, which administered comprehensive medical benefits such as serbisyo sa inpatient or outpatient, para sa sakuna na saklaw, libreng operasyon, mga benepisyo sa maternity, at iba pang mga pantulong na serbisyo tulad ng mga pagsusuri sa laboratorio at gamot. Next is maternal and child health services have improved. More children living beyond infancy, increasing number of women delivering at health facilities, and more births being attended by professional service providers than ever before. Dahil sa marami na din mga hospital na pinatayo ang ating gobyerno, sa iba't ibang dako ng bansa upang ma-access agad ng mga mamamayan, marami itong natulungan. Next is access to and provision of preventive, diagnostic, and treatment services for communicable or infectious diseases have improved. Mga pasilidad ng pangangalaga sa kalusugan at papublikong kalusugan, ang pagkontrol sa infeksyon ay kinabibilangan ng ibang bansa na mga pumipigil at naglalaman ng pagkalat ng nakakahawang sakit. Lastly, several initiatives to reduce illness and death due to non-communicable disease or NCD. Sa tulong ng World Health Organization, hinihikayat ang lahat na iwasan ang mga pinagbabawal na gamot na mga nakakasama sa kalusugan. Patuloy din ang ating gobyerno na nagpapatupad ng mga batas upang abisuhan ang publiko para makaiwas sa dulot nito. But despite this, substantial progress in improving the lives and health of people in the Philippines, achievements have not been constant and challenges remain. Nananatili pa rin ang mga pagkakaiba at hindi pagkakapantay-pantay sa pagitan ng mga rehiyon, mayaman at mahirap, at iba't ibang paglaki ng populasyon. Let me call on Sir J.C. Estorel for the continuation of our discussion.
Thank you, Sir Edwinson. Now, let us continue our lesson. Hello, everyone. Are you ready, class? Okay, since everyone is now ready for the discussion, let us all start. Social determinants of health. It refers to the conditions in which people are born, grow, live, work, and age. These circumstances are shaped by the distribution of money, power, and resources at global, national, and local levels. In here, class, these are non-medical factors that influence individual health status. Social determinants of health are an individual's personal circumstances that impact their health and well-being. Ito yung mga bagay o mga pangyayari na tumutulong para matukoy ang health status ng isang tao. Bakit nga ba natin kailangan na malaman ng mga ito? This is because addressing social determinants of health properly is fundamental for improving health and reducing long-standing inequities in health, which requires action by all sectors and civil society. Structural determinants of health. It refers to those factors which lead to stratification such as income, education, occupation, social class, gender, and ethnicity. From the word structure, it is the way that something is built, organized, or arranged. So in here, class, these determinants cause and operate through intermediary determinants of health to shape health outcomes. Something is built, organized, or fixed. For example, occupation and income of a family. Kapag mababa yung income ng isang nagtatrabaho sa bahay, kadalasan 'di ba may mga pangangailangan ang isang pamilya na hindi natutugunan. Halimbawa na lamang nito ay ang pagkain. May mga pagkakataon na hindi sila nakakakain ng 3 beses sa isang araw. At the worst cases is isang beses or hindi na sila nakakakain. At dahil doon, nagkakaroon sila ng sakit dahil sa gutom. Ayan. Next is intermediary determinants of health. Refers to those factors that directly define and influence health choices of individuals. It includes individual lifestyle and outcome. Since inter means between among, an intermediary is someone or something that moves back and forth in the middle area between two sides, a go-between. An example given is individual lifestyle. For example, bisyo gaya ng paninigarilyo at pag-inom ng alak. Ipagpalagay natin na itong si John Doe ay naninigarilyo at umiinom araw-araw. Dahil sa kanyang paninigarilyo, nagkaroon siya ng malalang sakit or halimbawa lung cancer. Because of his lifestyle, we may be able to know the health status of Berto. Now, let's talk about Sustainable Development Goals on Health. SDG 3 covers the Unfinished Millennium Development Goal or MDG agenda and newer challenges such as non-communicable diseases, health security, tobacco, and injuries. What do you think is the difference between Millennium Development Goals and Sustainable Development Goals? When we say Millennium Development Goal, these are 8 goals made to advance the health of women and children, gender equality, education, environment, and global partnerships. And the target deadline is 2015. Ibig sabihin, tapos na. Ayan ang pumalit, while the Sustainable Development Goals has 17 goals to achieve a better and more sustainable future for all, and its target deadline is 2030. MDGs or Millennium Development Goals mainly targeted developing or least developed or poor countries. It was designed in the context of rich donors aiding poor recipients. SDG targets and applies uniformly to all the countries. Ayan, rich, middle, income, and poor. So kahit na anong klase ng country yan, mayaman na country, mahirap na country, ayan, it appeals all countries to take action. Now, let us talk about Sustainable Development Goal number 3. The Sustainable Development Goal number 3 aims to ensure a healthy lives and promote well-being at all ages with the following health targets by 2030. This Sustainable Development Goal number 3 targets the following objective. First is to reduce the global maternal mortality ratio to less than 70 per 100,000 live births. When we say maternal mortality, ito ay tumutukoy sa mga kababaihang namamatay habang nagbubuntis o namamatay dahil sa panganganak. Next is to end preventable deaths of newborns and children under 5 years of age, reducing neonatal death with a minimum of 12 per 1,000 live births and under 5 mortality or deaths at a minimum of 25 per 1,000 live births. When we say neonatal death, it is when a baby dies in the first 28 days of his or her life. Next is to cease spread communicable diseases such as AIDS, tuberculosis, malaria, and neglected tropical diseases and combat hepatitis, waterborne diseases, to cease or wakasan ang pagkalat ng mga nakakahawang sakit. Next is to decrease by a third the premature mortality or deaths through prevention of non-communicable diseases, bawasan ang maagang pagkamatay o pagkamatay sa pamamagitan ng pag-iwas sa mga hindi nakakahawang sakit. Next is to further the promotion of mental health and well-being and reinforcing the prevention and management of substance abuse, narcotic drug abuse, and the harmful use of alcohol. Next is to decrease by 50% the number of global deaths and injuries from road traffic accidents. Next is to ensure universal access to sexual and reproductive healthcare services, particularly family planning, information, and education. Lastly, to attain universal health coverage, specifically financial risk protection, access to quality essential healthcare services, including safe, effective, quality, and affordable essential medicines and vaccines for all individuals, and safety for individuals exposed to hazardous chemicals in air, water, and soil pollution and contamination. The goal addresses all major health priorities, including reproductive, maternal, and child health, communicable diseases o mga nakakahawang sakit, non-communicable, mga hindi nakakahawang sakit, and environmental diseases, mga sakit na nakukuha natin sa ating paligid. Universal health coverage and access for all to safe, effective, quality, and affordable medicines and vaccines. Now, let us know and understand the Republic Act 11223 or the Universal Healthcare Act, or also known as Kalusugang Pangkalahatan. It was enacted as law on February 20, 2019. This law provides every Filipino the highest possible quality of healthcare which is accessible, efficient, equitable, appropriately funded, and fairly financed according to the Department of Health. This law ensures that all Filipinos and their communities are given the necessary quality services which are free from health threats and financial suffering. In here, class, this law automatically enrolls all Filipino citizens in the National Health Insurance Program and prescribes complementary reforms in the health system. This gives citizens access to the full continuum of health services they need, while protecting them from enduring financial hardship as a result. The Universal Healthcare Law aims to improve doctor-to-patient ratio, increase hospital bed capacities, and establish more hospitals in remote areas. Ito madalas natin naririnig kapag nasa hospital or may mga kamag-anak tayong nasa hospital. Sinasabi na, idaan mo to sa ilakad mo to sa PhilHealth para wala ka ng bayaran or konti na lang yung babayaran mo. So dito class, yung ganyang kalakaran ay nakapailalim yun sa Universal Healthcare Act natin at kasama ito sa ating mga karapatan. To sum it up, there are two types of determinants of health. These are the structural and the intermediary determinants of health. The Sustainable Development Goal number 3 is one of the goals that aims to be achieved until 2030. The goal addresses all major health priorities including reproductive, maternal, and child health. Republic Act 11223 is an act that is made for all Filipinos to have the highest possible quality of healthcare which is accessible, efficient, equitable, appropriately funded, and fairly financed. Unfortunately, this would be the end of our unit, Global Population and Mobility. Now, here is Mr. or Sir or Teacher Alfredo Jose Valladolid to present to you our activity for today.
Thank you, discussants. Now let us give you an activity. In this activity, you are asked to create a concept map about our lesson for today using this model. Remember, this will be passed on a Google form that we will send on your GC until 8 p.m. only. Now, to officially end our discussion, here is Sir Stephenson.
For your assignment, you will be making an artistic, colorful, and creative digital or a drawing poster slogan about the concepts of the global population and mobility. Your individual output will be graded according to the given criteria. Creativity 50%, uniqueness 30%, relevance 20%, total of 100%, to be submitted on February 15, 11:59 p.m. That ends our video discussion. I hope you gain a lot of knowledge about our lessons. For your questions and clarifications, don't hesitate to mention or message us to our group chat. Once again, I'm Sir Stephen along with my co-pre-service teachers from the Bachelor of Secondary Education, major in Social Studies, saying thank you for your time, effort, and patience to watch this video discussion. See you for our next discussion. Keep safe and God bless.